So I'd like to welcome all of you to the Ingenuity Marketing Group webinar, Top SEO Trends for 2015. I'm Rachel Gold, and I'll be presenting with Virginia McCoy, who will introduce herself in a moment. And first, I just wanted to take a moment to really welcome you to this webinar. This is a topic that you'll discover is close to our hearts, so we love when people are willing to take time out to listen to it. I know a lot of you, you've got really busy days, I'm sure. So thanks for taking the time to sit down with us and attend this webinar. And I just want to quickly introduce you to Ingenuity Marketing Group. We focus exclusively on professional services, accounting, legal, AEC. Those are our main audiences. And we find a lot of the firms that we're working with are dealing with these kinds of issues, that commodity trap pricing, trouble cutting through the clutter to attract A prospects and recruits, and we're going to address some of that in the webinar today. Getting everyone on the same page, or being really frustrated that they've got marketing programs that aren't really producing the ROI. So that's what we really focus on at Ingenuity. And let me introduce you to myself. This is my previous haircut, so if you meet me in public, don't be surprised, it's a little bit longer. I'm a communications consultant with Ingenuity, former journalist, have published some novels. I love the internet, and still I'm a pragmatist. So that's one of the key takeaways about me. If something's not delivering results, I see that the slides are not advancing, someone says. Thank you very much. Let's see. All right, tell me in a moment if you see my shining face. And Virginia, chime in here. What do you see?
I still see the opening slide.
Oh dear. All right, let me figure this out. All right, bear with me, everyone. Virginia, while I figure this out, do you want to start introducing yourself, and then I'll chime back in?
Sure, absolutely. So I am what we would call a millennial, one of those dreaded millennials. And to give you a little bit of background about me is that I often have to stop myself from searching online. I don't know if anybody else has this experience, but you know what you're looking for, you know the name of something, you know the directions that you're looking up, but you still just have that urge to search. So that is one of my weaknesses, but it shows how close to home search can be. And also, I am what you'd call the Luke Skywalker to Rachel's Obi-Wan for SEO. She is absolutely the master of it at Ingenuity, but I come in a close second, I'd like to think. And another thing about me to, really wrap up, me in a nutshell is that I once texted my mother while I was running the Chicago Marathon. So that shows that I was really raised on technology, and I just can't get away from it. So I'm just going with it.
The key to that anecdote is that it was while she was running the Chicago Marathon, not observing. Okay, do you see your own slide now, Virginia, or do you still see the start slide?
I still see the start slide.
That's very sad.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone who's responding. Okay, I'm going to pause this. Okay. I'm sorry, everyone, for this delay. Okay, so now, does anyone see Virginia? Just got it, people are saying?
Yeah, I see myself.
Do you see yourself you see it in PowerPoint?
Yes, in PowerPoint.
That's quite sad. Okay, well, y'all are going to have to bear with, I have a great idea. This is the problem of us actually being too technologically advanced. So let's see. Do you still see yourself?
I do see myself in a PowerPoint presentation, but
All
not
right. In a moment, you should see yourself in actual. All right. Let's see. Oops. Do you see me?
Yes. There you are.
All right. I'm smiling too. Okay, good. All right. Go team. Thanks everyone for bearing with us. All right, so you've met Virginia, and you know that she's capable of texting while marathoning, which is kind of wild. You know that I am a social media and generally an internet pragmatist. And I also was going to share as a fun fact that I am the Chief Technical Officer of my family. And one of my greatest challenges in that role has been getting my on Facebook. So since I could do that, I just want to let you all know that I can handle any question, no matter how simple or how complicated. So again, feel free to ask us questions throughout the presentation. All right, so now that you know us, let's talk about the Google and let's talk about your relationship with search engines. So we're going to do a quick poll here just so that we can really get a sense of how you rate your knowledge of SEO. So I'll leave this up for about a minute, just kind of let us know where you're at so that we know what to tell you. And Virginia, I think you can't see the results because you're on a different computer than me, but let me tell you right now, early results are kind of exciting. There's a lot of people who are in the I understand SEO well category, though I really admire whoever said, what is SEO? Wait while I Google it. Which reminds me to say SEO stands for search engine optimization. So SEO is really about making your website rank well in Google, Yahoo, Bing, in the search engines, so that when people are looking for what your firm offers, they're more likely to find you. All right, 5 more seconds, and I'm going to close the poll and show you all the results here. All right, here we go. So these are the results. So it looks like a lot of you, about 3/4 of you, understand SEO well, but you want to know more, which is fantastic. And then the other quarter, you kind of have some knowledge, but not a ton of knowledge. And the one who said, what is SEO? You're going to come out of here like an expert. It's going to be beautiful. All right. So why do we need to optimize for the search engines? What's important about this? I wanted to show you a quick statistic here. This is actually from a report from the Acuity Group about buyers of business-to-business services. So we're not talking about consumers here. We're talking about the kind of people who buy your services. And as you can see, that top number, 77%, are using Google search. So that's of the 94% of business buyers who are doing some kind of research. About 3/4 of them are going to Google, and they're looking up the services they need, or maybe they're looking up questions that they have. A lot of times you might have small business owners, mid-sized business owners, looking up questions about accounting, for example, or engineering, and you want your firm to rank well for that. That's why search engine optimization is important. And then you can see these other stats here. That second stat definitely says once they find you on Google, you want to have a great website for them to look at. And we'll talk about that just briefly today, but definitely today is about making sure that you get found. Now, search has been evolving, and we thought the best thing to represent this would be what I call the bearguin, the polar bear, or the panda penguin, which is named after a couple of Google's recent updates. So Google's updates have some pretty exciting names. Panda is one. Panda was really out there to de-rank some low-quality sites. So they're trying to get really low-quality sites out of the search results. And then after that, you've got Penguin. And Penguin, a lot of people were using some really spammy link building techniques. So when you get to the site and it would just be a list of links, and that was kind of disappointing because that's not what you're looking for. Penguin really started to take those out of search results. And then you get Hummingbird. Virginia found a terrifying graphic for Hummingbird that we decided not to put up here. It was a hummingbird with teeth. It was excellent. Hummingbird has been about providing really relevant results to viewers. And I'm really hoping that the next iteration of Google will be called the Mockingjay, and that it will just kill bad search results, but that hasn't happened yet. So the point of this is that as search engines evolve, and particularly Google, because it's the largest of the search engines, so that's why we're talking about it mainly, it evolves more and more in the direction of giving users what they want to find. Because if Google is not providing you with the most relevant results for what you're looking for, you're going to leave. You're going to go to a different search engine. You know, if Bing's doing a better job than Google, you're going to go to Bing. So each of the search engines strives to do its best to get rid of spam, to get rid of techniques to drive people towards sites that aren't valuable, and to really highlight valuable content that is as close as they can get to what they think you're looking for when you type in or verbally say a search question. And this is actually great news for professional services firms, because over the years, as Google has been evolving, they've been evolving to the kind of in-depth content that the experts at your firm will naturally tend to create. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. And Virginia is going to tell you a little bit about the evolution of long-tail search.
Yes. So right now, one of the big trends in SEO is long-tail search terms. And that means not just typing in one word that might describe what you're looking for, but multiple words to give Google the context of what you're looking for. So my example that I have is if you search my name, Virginia McCoy, one of the first things that pops up is a map of McCoy, Virginia, which is a small town. It's an unincorporated community in the state of Virginia. That's not me. So what you might type in, if you want to go to the next slide, Rachel, is Virginia McCoy Digital Maven, which is the dorky name I gave myself in my Twitter profile. But if you search Virginia McCoy Digital Maven, that's the first result that pops up. So it's really adding in those extra words that describe what you're looking for, because you might not be just, you know, your customers might not be just looking for an engineer. They may be looking for a geotechnical engineer. They may not be looking for just an accountant. They may be looking for an accountant who deals specifically with auto dealerships. So that's one of the biggest trends right now, is the long-tail search terms, and about 70% of search traffic is from long-tail search terms.
So really the key takeaway for people on the webinar today is you want to make sure that you're looking for some of these terms for your firm. So
exactly.
really thinking about you know, what kinds of accounting do we do, or what kinds of geotechnical engineering, a great example, and making sure that you're working those into your website and your content.
Yeah. Great. So next up, going to semantic search, another thing about the Google updates that have been occurring is that they're getting closer and closer into semantic search. So we have the definition of semantic search up on the screen, but really the key takeaway from that is the intent and contextual meaning. So our examples are, how do I teach my dog to bark? And signs of a healthy tree bark. You wouldn't just type in bark in this instance. You're giving Google context. So it would be tree bark or a dog bark. So that's another thing that the Google updates are really heading towards with the semantic search is, you know, as the people searching online are going in depth for what they're looking for, your website and the SEO on your website needs to be leading them to find you.
Right, and part of what's neat about semantic search here, not only is how we ask, you know, we're starting to ask, especially now that we have voice, we're starting to like ask our phones, like, you know, how do I do this, where do I do that? But that on Google's end, they're getting smarter and smarter about how people ask. And you can leverage this to your benefit. One really simple way is to actually put some of the questions on your website. So, you know, what is an audit? That's a kind of you know, or what's the difference between an audit, a compilation, and a review? You can actually think of some of the common questions that your clients ask you and include the question and then answer it. It's a great way to generate website content, and it helps in this context of semantic search where Google and the search engines are trying to be friendlier for how we ask questions and what kinds of answers we're looking for. All right, so speaking of your website, when you're looking at your website and you're looking at it in terms of how good is my content for search engines, the cool thing about the fact that, you know, as we saw with the panda penguin earlier, the cool thing with Google moving towards more relevant search results is that the more friendly you are with your site, the more client-focused you are with your site, you'll be doing better both in terms of your search engine ranking and in terms of the user experience. Those two things are converging more and more, which is just a wonderful trend. So you really want to look at, what are we trying to get across, but how good are we at providing solutions to our clients' problems? How much unique content do we have that's answering questions, that's providing solutions? Because unique content is really important because Google dislikes duplicate content. And it's just very good for converting visitors to your website to become leads for your firm. So you really get to do double duty with everything on your website now, bringing people into your firm, into your sales cycle, and helping your firm rank better and better.
Great. So when you're looking at your SEO keywords, we put together a few questions that you might want to consider when you're putting that list together. What problem is the user trying to solve? Meaning, why are they on the website? What is it that brought them to the website? What were they looking for? And how can you help the user with your keywords? And then what do we want our firm to be known for? This is really important because, as we've said before, you're not just an engineer, you're not just an accountant, you're not just selling one very large service. You're probably serving a very particular type of client. And if that is the case for you, then you definitely want to have your firm come up in searches for that word. And then, are these the words people use when they look for the services we provide? It's amazing how often when we're doing key searches or keyword searches for our clients, how drastic the difference is between accounting for manufacturing and manufacturing accounting. There's so many searches for one and not so many for the others. So that's really what's important when you're putting your SEO keyword list together. Great. So here are some of our favorite SEO resources. You'll see Content Marketing Institute and Search Engine Land. Those are both websites that have great articles on SEO best practices and share some of the latest updates and even some of the rumors that might be buzzing about Google and any upcoming changes. There's also Uber Suggest, which is suggest on steroids, as it says. And what it does is you'll put in a search that you think might work for your company, and that it'll come up with a list of terms that are relevant or similar to what you've listed. So it gives you new ideas for keyword searches. And then SEMrush is a website that we use at Ingenuity to track your website and how it's performing and see if there are any holes, such as missing H1 tags, any missing meta descriptions, and any of that back-end content, which are very big words. But really what it means is, what is on your website that is helping you rank and what's missing and how can you improve it. And then one of our favorites is the Google Keyword Planner. Rachel, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I do. Funny you should ask, because I love the Keyword Planner. So the Keyword Planner, it used to be separate from AdWords, and they bundled it in, but don't be distracted by the fact that you have to sign into AdWords to use it. It's free, and you don't need to be doing an AdWords campaign to use the Keyword Planner. There's a couple different ways to use it, but one great way is you can search for traffic for a list of terms, and you can also get it to suggest terms. So this is a fantastic way to figure out what some of those keywords are. A lot of you already have some knowledge of SEO, so you might already have a list of keywords, in which case, you may use this to drill deeper to get some of those long tail key phrases. Also, if you're looking at your Google Analytics, you may have noticed it doesn't tell you you're referring keywords as often as it used to, which is unfortunate. You can get those results from SEMrush, but you can also just, maybe once every 6 months or so, take a visit back to the Keyword Planner and run your keywords again and see if the traffic is changing for those keywords. See if something suddenly, it was getting 10 searches a month and now it's getting 50 or 90. And the way I like to work with it often is to export. You can export them into an Excel spreadsheet. and then it makes it super easy to look at all your keywords and sort them by traffic, but also sort them by competition. So you want to really look for keywords that have higher traffic and lower competition. And keywords kind of a misnomer because it's all key phrases at this point. But that's a way to stay on top of, okay, what are the words that we're using? And we generally recommend you have maybe 3 to 6 focus keywords that are the ones you're really going for, really trying to rank for. And then, depending on how big your firm is, you could probably have 10 to 30 secondary keywords that you want to make sure you're working into your web content, but you're not doing it as diligently as you're doing it with the focus keywords. All right, so I know that on the next slide, Virginia, you have some exciting news for people.
I do. So 1,500 plus. This is how many hours you should be spending a month on your SEO. I am completely kidding. The 1,500 plus, I know, I wish that everybody were in the room so I could just see their faces and the terror in their eyes, but you're not. Don't worry. This is about how many words Google is looking for when you're writing content. So this is one of the big SEO trends, is having long form content on your website. So maybe it's through the blog posts. We really, we're all about blog posts. If you can find valuable content to share on your website, that'll really help with your rankings. And this is a perfect example of, those phrases that we talked about earlier with like, what is the difference between X and Y, and writing an article about that. And then really, not sending your viewers to an article that doesn't really help them, but, something that really answers their questions. They don't necessarily know all about the services that you provide, so this is a great way to talk up any specific services you provide or answer any questions that you commonly have.
And this doesn't mean that every page on your site should be over 1,500 words. Please don't do that. That would be overwhelming. But it means that you want some amount, and I'd say a good rule of thumb would be maybe a quarter to a third of your content could be over 1,500 words in terms of expert articles, expert blog posts. And when Google sees an article this long, it thinks, oh, this is important. And then the other great feature of this is that it takes people a little while to read it. So it'll increase your time on site metric. And the more time people spend on your site, the more Google assumes that you're valuable. But you don't want every page to be this long, because another factor that Google's looking at is click-throughs. So how many pages did someone visit? So ideally you want someone to be visiting 4 or more pages and spending 2 to 3 minutes or more at least on your site. So to do that, you need pages of different lengths, but you need some of this great, long, hopefully evergreen content that if someone finds it 3 years from now, it's still relevant because it's answering one of those perennial questions. So this is we love stats. Here's another cool stat. Professional service firms that generate at least 40% of their leads online exhibit substantially higher growth rates and profit margins. So generating leads online, SEO is a really important part of that. And I just wanted to give you a super quick case study example. One of our clients has a really deep niche practice. They're a mid-sized accounting firm. They've got this really deep niche. They serve businesses all across the U.S. And for the top key phrase of the people they serve, they're not only number 1 on Google, but you'll see when you search for the phrase, they're in at least 3 places on that first page of the Google results, including with a video. And so what happens is if people search for their kind of accounting, and this comes up and you see the video and you see their website, the amount of traffic they get is really strong, and they get people watching the videos, and they get people converting to clients out of finding them and watching their videos and wanting a closer relationship with the firm. So that's how, if you pick some really deep niches, you work your long tail keywords, you can bring in business from the search engine optimization. And I see that we got a question while I was talking. Are we able to send the PowerPoint? Yes, we are. So we can send you out a physical copy of this PowerPoint afterwards.
Great. So looking at resources for SEO, what resources are worth the cost? You'll see the scary, text that's on the screen, that's kind of what your website looks like at its core. So our message with that is optimizing your website with well-researched keywords. You'll see there's at the very top there's an H1 tag that says keyword typo generator. And so this is just an example of optimizing your website with well-researched keywords. We also listed SEMrush, the website, because we found it to be very helpful with tracking how you're doing and then also how you're doing about competition. There are a lot of great components to SEMrush, so we really recommend that. And then also writing articles, as we've talked about with the long-form content, or hiring a ghostwriter to create original content that can live on your website and draw people to your website and keep you there.
I love the ghostwriter graphic, I just have to say. All right, we're going to do our next super quick poll. So this is about how you're measuring the ROI for your website right now. And we've only got a couple slides left. I know we said 25 minutes, and we might end up in a 30-minute webinar, but we're about 2 slides from the end. So just give us a few seconds here. Let us know how you're measuring the ROI, and then we'll give you our key takeaways and send you off to optimize. I see we have a pretty savvy audience here. So 2/3 have voted, and those top 2 are doing pretty well. We've got a distribution across all the answers here. All right, I'm closing the poll in about 3 seconds so that we can keep moving. All right, so here are the results. A lot of you, that's really exciting to me that you're using Google Analytics and some additional tracking. That's wonderful. Looks like about half of you are using Google Analytics to some degree. And then we have a website, what more do you want from me? Super, super legitimate answer, but I hope we can persuade those of you who answered that way to be using Google Analytics. And this is a quick look at Google Analytics. I'll flash up our emails at the end of this, so if anyone needs more information about how to read Google Analytics, what kind of information to get from it, we can do that. But basically, if you're using Google Analytics, what you want to be looking for in terms of your SEO is you want to be looking at your organic visits. You want to see, that's kind of in the bottom middle here, you can see organic visits by keyword. You'll get some of your keywords there, but also look at the people who are coming. Organic search just means it's not paid search. They came from search results on Google or another search engine. You want to look at how many pages they're looking at and what the time on site is as well. One of the trends I've been seeing is that organic search traffic is spending more and more time on site, so that's pretty exciting for people. So look at those and see, that'll tell you how well, not only how well you're attracting people, but once you've got them in, did they find that your content was relevant to them? And then SEO leads have a 14.6% close rate, while outbound leads, which is kind of the direct mail, the pushing out version, 1.7. So SEO leads, this kind of goes with what I was saying about the fact that organic search traffic seems to be spending more and more time on site. And that kind of behavior on your site, that's about 10 or 20% of your overall, oh, I have a question. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself. What are some targets for page view and time on pages? I want to see, well, overall, I want to see time on site. I'd love to see it above 3 minutes for your website. If you can get over 4 minutes, I think you should get a prize. If you have video, that'll be higher. But look, time on site in general, 3 minutes and up. And time on pages, it depends what the page is. Some pages people will move through pretty quickly, but if you have one of those 1,500 word article pages, you want to make sure people are spending at least a minute or two. Otherwise, they're not reading the article. So that's how I would look at time on a specific page. Page views, I would say at least 4 pages or more. The more pages people are looking at, the more they're likely to convert themselves to a lead on your site and get in touch with you somehow. So you want to see that. And a lot of times what we'll see, you can really drill down and see sort of how many people are looking at different pages. So a lot of times you'll see there are a lot of people who are looking at 4 or fewer, and then it kind of drops off for a bit, and then you've got the people who are maybe looking at 8 or more pages. If you see that kind of pattern, that can be a good pattern it means that the people for whom you're not relevant are dropping off, but the people for whom you are relevant are really looking at a lot of pages. And that's in Google Analytics. So yeah, lastly, I just wanted to say that in terms of behavior on your site, that's going to be 10 to 20% of your overall SEO. And the site optimization itself is about 40%. So you want to make sure you've got all that going on. And we have a question slide for you, though you've already been great about asking some questions. So we just wanted to make this the key takeaway slide. Make sure you're creating content that humans find really useful. Make sure you've got all your SEO basics in place, and then really drill into a niche or long tail keyword. And Virginia, I'm going to bust through our last two slides because we're going over here, and just give them this. This is our email addresses. If you have questions, feel free to ask either of us. We both do a lot of this. If you have questions about ghostwriting, about how we optimize sites for people, we've done some pretty in-depth strategies for some of our clients. We'd be happy to show you examples or answer any of those questions. And I really want to thank you for joining us today, and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, thank you so much.